Hey everybody, it's Corey once again, here with a different type of video than usual. This will be my chiller weekend recap vlog. This will be dedicated to the fact that this will be the last faraway convention I'll be going to either ever or for a very long time. And this should be my start also of a series of celebrity recollection videos. Now, I'm gonna start this off by doing a minimized version of the crazy drive to the place. On the website it said that I was changing locations, but I didn't know that they meant that they were going to be changing locations starting with this show. What ended up happening was my family and I went to the wrong hotel, and luckily we were able to get it fixed so we could stay at the hotel where it's now at instead of being at the hotel where it used to be. But okay, I'm just going to keep it at that because that's the boring part, I guess you could say. Now, here's to the fun stuff. I was looking forward very much to this show because of some of the people on the guest list. For this convention, you had people like some of the Walking Dead cast members, recent ones, like Enid and Jesus and Gregory. You also had Stacey Nelkin from Halloween 3, Caroline Munro, who was a James Bond beau and had a little appearance in Hammer's Dracula AD 1972, along with other Hammer alumni like the ingenue Veronica Carlson and the co-villain in AD 1972, Christopher Neame. You also had Fred the Hammer Williamson, known for things like From Dusk Till Dawn, Black Caesar, among other Tarantino, Rodriguez, and Larry Cohen movies. They also had Samantha Mathis, girlfriend of River Phoenix, and was also in things like Super Mario Brothers movie, FX's The Strain, and the 2004 remake of Salem's Lot. You had Andrew, or as he's credited in here, Andy Robinson, who was the sniper in Dirty Harry. He was the father that got turned into the uncle in Hellraiser. Sergeant Botnick, the creepy barber from Child's Play 3. He was the sheriff in Pumpkinhead 2. He was in quite a few things. You also had Pat Priest, who was the main Marilyn Munster that people knew. You had Dee Wallace. And quite a few other names. Some that sadly had to cancel at the last second, like Alan Kaiser, who was Brad sorry, it sounded a little weird there, who played Brad in Night of the Creeps. But luckily the people I was looking the most forward to seeing did not pack out. Now to the main people that I was really looking forward to seeing there. Oh, before that, I should mention that I also had a big reunion of Starsky and Hutch, only with Starsky and one of the other actors. The guy who played Hutch had to cancel due to health reasons, like cancer or something, which is very unfortunate. Would have loved to have asked him about Salem's Lot and working with Toby Hooper. But you also had the guys from Perfect Strangers, like Belky, who did a series of countdown videos. He still looks pretty decent for his age. He doesn't look like how some of these other actors I've seen look at some conventions, where they look so scruffy and terrible, to put it mildly. I saw C. Thomas Howell at a convention. That guy looked like Charles Manson. But now to the people that I was looking forward to seeing, like the Fright Night reunion. Saw Chris Sarandon for the... I don't know how many times I've seen him now. 6, 7 max. Saw William Ragsdale, who was Charlie. Stephen Jeffries, who was Evil Ed. Got to ask him a bit about 976 Evil. I would love to do a downloadable commentary with him and Robert Englund on that movie. He also had Jonathan Stark, who played Billy Cole, Jerry's sidekick in Fright Night. And he also co-created, according to Jim, with Tracy Newman. He also had Amanda Beers, who I didn't get to see, sadly. She just always had a crowded table online. But in that same room, they also had the American Pie reunion. I met the guy who played Kevin, Thomas Ian Nicholas. You'll hear more details about these guys in a couple minutes. I saw Shannon Elizabeth and Mina Savari. If I had a little bit more money, I definitely would have gotten their autographs. I mean, I will have to say that Mina has seen better days. Let's see, who else is in here? Oh yeah, Tom Berenger was there from Platoon and Inception. But now to the fun part that most of you guys most likely will be tuning in for. Things that you'll be seeing in this thumbnail. The thumbnail to the video. Since I don't like showing my face because I'm not the most attractive guy, as most of you guys may know. Let's see. We're got so many of these. Take them out one at a time. Put most of these in temporary sleeves. Oh, good. I just happened to open up to the first guy that I met. This guy, I couldn't think of a better way to start off the convention. I mean, before I saw him, I saw my buddy Cortland Hull in charge of the Witch's Dungeon in Connecticut, which is a non-profit classic horror museum with wax figures dedicated to the Universal Classic Monsters and the Hammer movies. He told me a couple cool little recollections that his great uncle Henry Hull, star of Werewolf of London, told me. Like Warner Oland, and how they had to only film him at night because he was still filming the Charlie Chan series at Warner Brothers. He said they were lucky enough to just have him for a couple hours, not just for a series of nights. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool, because Warner Oland struck me by the way he acted. Probably because he did such a great job. He strikes me as being, excuse the language for the delicate viewers, but kind of struck me as an asshole. But of course, that just shows how much of a great job he did with the character. And yeah, I wish I got to get a couple things from Cortland, but I have most of the things that he's sells because I bought stuff from him in the past. But here is the first autograph that I got from Jim Parrick. This is a picture of him from Suicide Squad. As you can see, he wrote "To Corey," and there's his nice signature. Nice fancy cursive. And I asked him, of course, a bit of the logical question about Jared Leto. Because, as most people know, he was known for being a practical, pun intended, joker on set. And Jim said, "What did you hear about him?" So for a couple seconds, I kind of thought maybe this must have been some big extravagant publicity scheme by Jared and the cast. But what I ended up saying to him was, well, I heard the things about the pigs and the rats and the condoms, used condoms, and the dildos and his feces and jizz or whatever. But he said, well, he never did any of that stuff to me. And I kind of figured that was the case, but I felt I should ask anyways instead of saying something that may turn out to not be true. And he was very nice. He seemed to have a lot of fun working with Jared as the Joker. And I told him how a couple of my coworkers have said to me, if they were the Joker, they'd probably do similar things. And he said, well, you're playing the Joker, so you might as well have fun. Okay, let's see. How did I do next? Oh, yes. I got to meet a guy from many things like Cobra with Stallone, the 1988 Blob with Kevin Dillon, Shawnee Smith, Candy Clark, Paul McCrane, and others. He was also on Home Improvement a few times with Tim Allen. Art LaFleur, one of those guys that you've seen around. And at the time that I'm doing this video, none of these people, or most of these people, don't know that I've got them. Little surprises, so I won't be posting these until this video until like they all get them. Yeah, this is for my buddy Mike, OCP Communications, since we both bonded over the 1988 remake of The Blob. Yeah, I wish he had some pictures from The Blob there, like pictures of him like either sitting in the chair or at the pharmacy. Yeah, like ask him to write something like ribbed or what was it? The boy doesn't need condoms, he needs a muzzle. That was a funny line. But he was very sweet too. I didn't spend too much time with him. In retrospect, I wish I got to ask him a bit more, but I was trying to get as much done on Friday because Friday is the best night to get things done at these shows. Then the next one was one of the guys I was looking the most forward to seeing, Scott MacDonald. And yes, he said that's how you pronounce it, MacDonald, from things like Jack Frost. I didn't say this to his face because I didn't want to take it as an insult, but I've always said that he is one of those Jack Nicholson / Anthony Hopkins lookalikes and Brad Dourif soundalikes. And maybe a little dark, so I'll read what he wrote. He asked me very politely, I hope you don't mind vulgar language. And I'm like, oh, I'm fine with it. I don't offend that easily. Wrote to Corey, well, it ain't fucking Frosty. One of my favorite lines. And he was telling me how with the special Blu-ray from Vinegar Syndrome or Criterion, one of those, he got the interview call a couple days after this. He was talking to his friend at a bar that introduced him to this kid that told him, I've seen Jack Frost like over 120 times and it's my favorite movie. I thought that was pretty sweet to hear. Yeah, he was saying that he loved hearing that. And then the next day he got a phone call from the interview people at Vinegar Syndrome or Criterion, and he said, you're kidding me, right? This is a prank. Who put you up to this? But he said within a few days they had the interview shot at his house that you see on the Blu-ray, which I recommend. It's great. I told him that I listened to some of the commentary and it was cool to hear one of the inspirations for the movie was Wes Craven's Shocker, which I love. And I told him that like about that, and he was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And speaking of Shocker, a couple years after that, I filmed Fire in the Sky with Peter Berg. And whenever I'd see him, I'd go in a jokey way, all fanboy on him. Yeah, like I would always go up to him at a bar or wherever he'd be and be like, "I love Shocker, Peter." And I told him I would probably do the same thing if I ever met him. I'm not kidding. Now to the next one. This guy was definitely the first one that made me decide I'm definitely going to go to this show. Yeah, and then Scott McDonald was the next one because he was announced a week or so later. Andrew Robinson. To Corey, Come to Daddy, Andrew Robinson, Larry/Frank. And got to talk to him a bit about some of the movies, like Child's Play 3. He really, all he had to say about it was weird working with the doll. But it was cool that he left it short and sweet. And I also asked him about Pumpkinhead 2, and I was saying to him I thought it was cool that Jeff gave him the role of the sheriff instead of forcing him to stay in the role of the judge after Timothy Bottoms dropped out. And he said, "Yeah, that Jeff Burr guy is one of my friends, and I really appreciated that." And then I'll quickly show you these. I got a couple birthday autographs from him for some friends. Where is it? I'm gonna shut this off for a second. If you see a jump cut, that means that I shut this off. See you in a bit. Alright, finally found it. Found the other one. Okay, so this one is for OCP Communications birthday. To Mike, so much for the cat and mouse shit. And then this one is for one of my coworkers' dads. I told him a little bit about who was on the guest list. See if there was anyone he might be interested in me getting for him. And he said, when I mentioned Andrew Robinson, because I was talking about Hellraiser, he said, "Oh, my dad loves that movie." He loves that guy. So I checked with him a little while later. What do you think would, which one do you think he'd prefer, Dirty Harry or Hellraiser? And he said, oh, he would love Hellraiser. So he gave me a little light request, like write it as to Daryl and ask him to write happy birthday. And before I selected these, I was sort of saying to him, which one of these strikes you as saying happy birthday? And he's like, I don't know if I would call any of these happy birthday. But this one is my favorite. And I liked all three of the options he had. The one with his stretched out face, or the one that I picked, or the one where it's more of a close-up of him with the knife and the clawed mark on his cheek. But, yeah, this one says, to Daryl, happy birthday and come to Daddy. Very, very ecstatic. He could not have been nicer. He said, Yeah, when I mentioned the barber thing to him, I said I could tell you were definitely having a lot of fun with that role, and he said I had fun with all these roles. Yeah, I thought that was very sweet. Now, let's see. I think who was next. Oh yeah, when I saw Stephen Jeffries, I quickly got a new signature to replace my old one. The old one I got wasn't that great. A much better and a bit more iconic image of him. And no, for you guys wondering, I did not ask him about that certain stage of his career. And I'm not going to say what it is because it's private, and if you really want to know, just Google him. I don't get into people's personal backgrounds like that. I'm not that kind of guy. The next one I met was, and I spent almost $200 on this guy because I had a few things for him. This is the guy who played Billy Cole in the original Fright Night, Jonathan Stark. As you can see, he wrote to Corey and his signature and then his character's name. He still looks close to the same. I mean, yeah, he's a bit older, but he doesn't look horrible. He looks pretty decent. Okay, I just want to look through a couple more things in my book before I go on to the next things that I had him sign for me. I'm gonna close this book for now and grab the things that are by my corner, or should be by my corner. There we are. Because of course I mentioned that he was the co-creator on According to Jim, so I brought the 5 seasons that I have that are only out on DVD. Sadly, I wish they would release the rest of these. You know, Matt, in case if for some reason you're watching this, which I appreciate, thank you if you are. If you're not, that's okay, but I know that you felt pretty upset about the Simpsons DVDs being canceled, like them not releasing any more past 17 anymore. It's exactly how I feel about this show, According to Jim. As you can see, the signature right there. I didn't ask him to write the to Corey. I was just expecting the signature, but still pretty nice. There it is right there for season 2. And this one, season 3, which is definitely one of my most favorites of the seasons. Yeah, it's nice that he's leaving enough space for future cast members to hopefully sign. It's very sweet of him. This season 4, which took the longest for me to get. And then this one, he has in the corner right here above the kids, Ruby, Gracie, and Kyle. In case you were wondering what that other one is, this is Eric Estrada. He guest starred in a great episode, which I still love to this very day. That's still, I think, one of the funniest episodes of the series. It's just such an outrageous premise. Eric said to me I was the second or third guy to come up to him with a According to Jim product. But in the case of Jonathan Stark, he was very humbled because he said no one's ever asked him to sign these things for him. And I'm glad to be the first. So this is a little recap. Season 1. Season 2. Season 3. Season 4. Season 5. love that show. Whenever I'm in a bad mood and I put that show on to cheer me up, it always works. And before he gave them back to me, he asked me very politely, I'm not saying that to be sarcastic, I actually mean it. He was very nice about it. He wanted to take a quick picture of the covers to text message to Tracy Newman. And I asked him about the next day, and he said that she thought they were comic books at first, which I thought was cute. And he was like, no, these are the DVD releases. And she said, apparently, that, yeah, it's like I wish that I could have signed them too. And he said, well, if you were here, he would have asked you. And I told him I definitely would have. I will try to get as many signatures as I can for that show. Now to the couple final ones. Where is it? Thomas Ian Nicholas from the American Pie movies, and Halloween Resurrection, Rookie of the Year. Damn glare. To Corey, To the Next Stop, Thomas Ian Nicholas. When I mentioned that show to the Halloween Resurrection to him, he was very happy. And he told me a funny story about filming his death scene when Michael Myers pops out of the mirror and stabs him in the head. He said that the director, Rick Rosenthal, kept telling him to go lower, lower. He's killing you, go lower. And Brad made a pretty vulgar joke to him saying, like, suck it harder or something like that, because he was, of course, pretty much down to Brad's groin level of his body. But it was more like, suck it, Thomas, suck it, Thomas. And I told him a little bit about, I'm pretty sure he heard this from a lot of fans, about how I saw American Pie at too much of a young age in most people's eyes. But he chuckled. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't that young when I saw it. I was definitely too young when I first heard of it. But I saw it when I was a freshman, and I told him that I was born and raised into a very strict Mormon family, so I was only allowed to watch R-rated stuff if it came on TV. And other than that, I couldn't watch them. But as soon as I turned 17, I got pretty much any movie I wanted, and I still do that. I buy whatever things I want now, because I'm not limited anymore. And here's to the last autograph I got. This was another one that was sort of like new. I decided to do a single one of this guy, and then a duo one to hang up next to my Starship Troopers one signed by Casper Van Dien and Dina Meyer, and also to go with my Two Broke Girls ones, Kat Dennings and Beth Bears. This is from Fred the Hammer Williamson. This is him in From Dusk Till Dawn, getting ready to give his nom speech. To Corey, Fred the Hammer Williamson. Such a funny guy. I got this one too. I almost grabbed one of him with Clooney, but I'm like, with my luck, I'll never meet Clooney. So I went with this. Since one of the other guys was also at the show. Fred Williamson signed all the way down here. To Corey, Fred the Hammer Williamson. And then up in the corner above his head is Tom Savini. This is the third time I've seen him. I know some people have had problems with him. I personally have never had problems with him. He definitely is a very quiet guy, for sure. I think the most social he was the first time I met him. Approached him very delicately. I didn't want to scare him or catch him off guard. And I think he respected me for that. And he actually did a little mini interview with me, and I asked him a few rare things. I didn't get to ask him about the graveyard shift, but I've come to find out that it was true. He got a pay or play deal, so he got paid for it even though he didn't do it. But Ralph Singleton did a competent job. Now it's to more gifts, but I'm gonna grab something else, and I don't want it to be too time consuming for you guys, so you'll notice another jump cut in a second. Okay. Alright. Yeah, this is definitely one of the big high points of this video, I think. One of the other main reasons why I wanted to go to this convention was because Chris Sarandon was going to be there, and whenever I see him, I'll explain in a second why I'm holding this little envelope, but whenever I see him, I mean, the first time I saw him, I got an autograph from him, a cool, scary image of him in Fright Night, but yeah, back when the movie came out, I think it was the weekend it came out, actually, or the weekend after, I loved meeting him so much that each time I'd see him, I would get autographs for some friends too. And I can't even keep track of how many people I've gotten autographs from him for now. I mean, I know I got some friends like Tara, Phil, Francesca, Justine, Matt, aka Rambo Raft for Life. I got my friend Lauren an autograph, and other people here and there. But this is the envelope, the separate envelope I had from the rest of my money. This envelope had, and you guys are probably going to freak when you hear this, $360. All towards Chris Sarandon. And here's the little name list that I wrote down. A lot of these people had birthdays recently or are about to have birthdays, so I thought this would be the best birthday gift to get them. A couple of them have said to me, the next time you see him, please get me one, and I said yes, I will. Chris Sarandon even checkmarked each one. There's Eric and Haley, Nick, Mike, Katrina. He thought it said Katarina, but I quickly let him know, no, that's Katrina. She just spells it with a C. Caitlin, Sean, even though he asked me not to waste money on him, but I still did it anyways. Kara and Autumn. Yeah, I didn't tell my parents about that yet. They'll probably find out when this video gets posted, and I'll probably be dead. But I'll start off with this one first. I will be mailing this out soon to him for his birthday. My friend Mike, to Mike, Chris Sarandon, Jerry. His signature always cracks me up. It looks like a little kid scribbling. Alright. And I'm probably going to frame most of these for my coworker friends. Make it nice and presentable. Here's one for Nick. The one for Autumn. to Haley. Her sister Lauren, I got her one of these, and she was like, why didn't you get me one? I know she was probably just messing with me, but still kind of felt, especially since this is the last convention that I'm gonna be going to that's far away, I felt I should go out with a bang, and Chris Sarandon said to me, you certainly are going out with a bang. Yeah. This is the one that's been begging me for the past couple of years to get him one. Eric. And Kara. Alright, and Katrina. I got Katrina Matthew Lillard's autograph back for her birthday. She loved me for that. Yeah, she was super psyched. Then Caitlin. Already told her through text that I got her this. She's super psyched. And then I got Sean. I mean, the S, I know it looks like a J, but it was one of those quickly kind of drawn things. So I assure you, Sean, if you're watching this, this was an S. I just may have slightly smudged. Okay, now that's it for the autographs. Now to Saturday. I got all those done on Friday because I wanted to avoid crazy hectic crowds. I spent the remainder of Friday night and a lot of Saturday looking through vendors and at movies to get. And some of these I got for better prices than I would have gotten them online. I rebought Bela Lugosi, Hollywood's Dracula, because I loaned it to someone, they never gave it back. Still mad about that. I also got a Universal Classic Monster collection that features movies like Man-Made Monster, Horror Island, Captive Wild Woman, Night Monster, and the 1941 Black Cat. I think those were it, actually. I don't think there was more in that particular set. Got those from a very nice group of guys. We all loved classic horror movies, and we chatted about that for a while. And then there was this other one. There was this guy, and had a couple of these very young, attractive young ladies that were probably about my age, maybe a little bit older. Then yeah, with them I got Wicked Little Things DVD. I remember seeing it on TV a while back and liking it. And then a couple Masters of Horror episodes. A couple of them I got for a friend for his birthday. And then a couple that I've been wanting to get for a while, like one called Chocolate, directed by Mick Garris. I told them the story about how I ordered it. I was charged, but it never shipped out. And, they told me it was probably just a mistake, but I was like, yeah, but still, I don't want to do business with those people again. I got that one, and I'm glad that they had it, and they were more than sweet to me. Sweet like chocolate now that I think about it. Then I got Lucky McKee's Sick Girl, starring his cinematic sister Angela Bettis, and also has Aaron Brown. Then what was the other one I got? Got Pelts, directed by Dario Argento, and I got the Dreams in the Witch House by Stuart Gordon, and then Don Coscarelli's episode based on a Joe Lansdale short story, incident in and off Mountain Road. I'm gonna look at those soon. But the ones I got for my friend for his birthday, I got him a copy of Bela Lugosi, Hollywood's Dracula, along with a couple Masters of Horror episodes. Two that I've watched and enjoyed, one that I still have yet to finish, but I got because of the director. Got him Larry Cohen's episode Pick Me Up, which is one of my most favorites of the series. And then Toby Hooper's episode Dance of the Dead, based on the Richard Matheson short story. Stars Robert Englund. Then you had John Carpenter's Cigarette Burns, which is the one that I still have yet to fully finish, but I know it's got Norman Reedus of Walking Dead and Boondock Saints fame, and Udo Kier, who's been in tons of movies. If you see his face, you'll definitely know who he is. At the time of this recording, I still have yet to know how he's going to react because I haven't mailed them out yet. But I will soon. And then, I'm trying to think of what else I got from the vendors. And I think that was it. But now to mainly focus on Saturday, I attended a couple of the Q&As. Fred Williamson's Q&A was tons of fun. Very funny guy, very sweet. He talked a lot about the blaxploitation movies and some of the early years of his professional career with football, and talking about how you played it mainly for the game, not for the money. He said he was only paid like $100,000, maybe a little less. For that, shows the difference in economics. And he talked about getting involved with movies. There was one guy, I hope I'm saying the right name, Jim Kelly, that he worked with, who he said was very nice but was a terrible actor, that they cast later in a movie where he's a Native American that gets his tongue cut out so he didn't have to say anything. That was funny. They asked him about Quentin Tarantino and how it was to work with him, and he said once the check cleared it was great, but other than that, I think he was kidding though. I think he likes Quentin Tarantino. But I asked him about Larry Cohen. He told the funny stories about how they would be filming on the streets of New York City without permits, and they both had each other's back because the cops would be like, "Hey Hammer, what you doing there?" And he's like, "Oh, we're filming a movie." And he's like, "Okay, we're gonna do our rounds again and we're gonna be back in 20. You and your guys better be gone by the time we come back." And he's like, "Okay." Yeah, definitely shows how much of a different time it was. Because he said if I weren't there for Larry, and if Larry didn't have me and everything, we all would have gone to he would have gone to jail, or I would have gone to jail. Yeah, that was pretty fun. And then I also stayed for the Hammer film Q&A. That was a lot of fun to hear some memories about Peter Cushing and how much of a gentleman he was. And whenever he'd smoke his cigar or cigarette, he'd put on these white gloves to protect his hands. And then he would take them off after he finished smoking. He'd do the same thing apparently when he was eating. Veronica Carlson and some other people backed up the story. And Caroline Munro talked about the blood spilling on her and Dracula AD 1972. Veronica Carlson talked about the directors that she worked with at Hammer, like Freddie Francis, who she said was very nice. Terence Fisher, or as they call him, Terry Fisher, it said was a very peculiar guy, but was very good director. And then she talked briefly about Jimmy Sangster on Horror of Frankenstein, and how he was sort of like the goofball out of the three that she was lucky enough to work with. Christopher Neame told a really funny story about how the scene where Christopher Lee as Dracula bites him, he actually bit down a little harder than he thought, and the fake tooth punctured into Christopher Neame's neck. That was really funny. And then I'm pretty sure it wasn't funny to him, but certainly funny to me hearing that. Then had also the little girl who played Lucy's niece in Horror of Dracula, and she talked about how much of a gentleman Peter Cushing was to her. They also had Mark Lester, a guy who played Oliver Twist in the musical Oliver, and he shared a couple things about one of his co-stars who started out at Hammer, funny enough, Oliver Reed, who a lot of modern audiences may know best from Gladiator, which was the last film that he did. And he said that he was very nice and a joy to work with. Also, after that, there was the Fright Night Q&A. And during both days of the convention, I wore my "You're So Cool, Brewster" Story of Fright Night t-shirt in honor of the documentary. And I told a couple of the cast members I donated over $100 to it. That's how much faith I had in that production. And they were pretty grateful to me. Then told funny stories about like the contact lenses and how much they hurt, and which didn't surprise me because of course a couple of years later you had the Lost Boys and they wore those same contact lenses, and Kiefer Sutherland among others have told about how those contacts were hell. It's like shoving glass into your eye. And then I liked how Jonathan Stark during the Q&A would try to steal some people's audition stories. Like he tried to steal Chris Sarandon, sort of being like, I was here and so and I saw the script for Fright Night and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this next. And they're like, John, that story's already taken. That was funny. And in the beginning of the Q&A, Bill Ragsdale got a phone call and he's like, I'm sorry, I gotta take this. And he was calling and he was like, no, honey, you just kicked the ball a bit. He's like, it's okay. I'm doing something important right now, but just have confidence. And they were like, yeah, everyone was like, oh, that's so sweet. And it was sweet. And Chris was like, was that your wife? And he was like, no, that was my father. And these guys are a bunch of jokesters. They were very sweet. And they told a lot of stories about how Tom Holland never got enough time on the movie. They always the only times the studio interfered with them on the production were telling them you're a day or two behind schedule. But other than that, they were able to make the movie that they wanted to make. They also gave a few words on the remake, which was very surprising because you either meet people like Robert Englund or a lot of the original cast members from the different Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and they completely piss all over the remake. Well, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake deserved it. It's probably one of the worst remakes since Gus Van Sant's remake of Psycho. Then there was Friday the 13th, where Kane Hodder admits that he hadn't even seen it yet, at least at the time that I saw him answer the question. And then, like Gunnar Hansen on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, he hated that movie because he hates Andrew Bryniarski, and also hated Michael Bay and his henchmen because they tried to make him look bad and say things like he was trying to get like $5 million out of us for a cameo. But I know that's definitely not true. And but or it'll be like the Hitcher remake where Rutger Hauer and the guy that directed the movie and the guy that wrote it, Eric Red, admit that they'll never bother to see it. Or even the original cast members were talking about Rob Zombie's remake of Halloween and how they thought it laid little to the imagination and laid out too much of the cards. But in the case of the Fright Night remake, they were all fairly gentle towards it. Yeah, like Chris Sarandon has told the story multiple times about how nervous Colin Farrell was going up to him the first day that he met him, and he like offered him an expensive bottle of wine and gave him all these great gifts, and he was like, I saw this movie over like 50 times or 100 times as a kid with my little sister. And we talked also a bit about Anton Yelchin, and Chris, I could definitely tell, was almost like gonna take a moment of silence as soon as I mentioned his name. I just didn't like his character in that movie because I think they made him too much of a jerk. Yeah, like when he died, I felt bad for the things I said about him and criticizing him in the remake, but I think I was able to fix things with that by giving him a chance in other movies like Joe Dante's Burying the Ex, which I recommend. Sorry that I kind of got too sidetracked, but I just wanted to mention that. But trying to think what other major things happened that weekend. Anything that I left out. But yeah, I think I pretty much said all that I had to say. That was the weekend. It was a lot of fun. Definitely a good way to go out. I think I definitely went out on a high note. Definitely like Chris Sarandon said. Chris definitely has called me a few times the most generous fan he's ever met, which I think is great. And he also said, you are an amazing friend to the people that you know. And I asked him if he was still involved with acting, and he said a little, but mainly in theater. And I said to him that if I make it into the business, I would love to cast you in some stuff. And he said, we'll see what happens, and thank you for saying that. And I told him you're welcome, and yeah, that was pretty much mainly it. Yeah, I told about all the people that I met, and stories that people have told me, and ones that I heard. Oh yeah, I completely forgot to mention this one. I attended the little tribute for old TV horror host Zachary. That was a very touching tribute. I have to admit, I almost teared up a little bit just hearing the love and admiration that these people had for him. And someone told the promoter of the show, Kevin, Zachary told me to tell you that he really thanks you for inviting him to the show for all these years, and he credits the show as the main reason that he continued living. And if I was the promoter of the show and a celebrity guest, and he said that to me, I would be incredibly touched. But yeah, that was my Chiller weekend. If anyone involved with Chiller saw this, please comment, not just on the link that I'm going to be posting this video on, but on the actual video itself. Like, click on it and like type in the comments section, please, if you want to, not just under the post and link that I'm going to be doing. I really beg of you for that. I mean, I don't care about likes and dislikes and things like that. I mainly just care about comments. And thank you all for watching if you made it through. I'm sorry if I was a bit boring in some parts, but as most people know me in my everyday life, I am a rambler. And once again, thank you for watching. Take care. I hope to see you guys in the future with more videos, and I hope one day I can make it to another chiller. I mean, I don't know when it will be. Probably won't be for a long time, but we'll see what life has in store for me. Take care, and I hope you guys continue to do awesome shows. I'm pretty sure you will, because you guys know who to get, and you always have impressed me with the amount that you got. Later.